Good morning, everybody. Lovely to see that a number of people have come and joined us again this morning. Very happy to have you with us for this fourth day of the annual conference of the African Union for Housing Finance. My name is Kezia Rust, and I am the head of the Secretariat for the AUHF. And this is the 36th annual AUHF conference. Normally, we have this conference in a different country every year. And this year, we're having it virtually in every country. So that's a first for us. And while it is really unfortunate that we can't be together and actively shake hands and greet one another, I think what's been quite amazing over this week so far has been that we have had such a wide array of participants and quite a different kind of engagement. I found it really a very rewarding few days. The theme of our conference this year is on investing in the SDGs, so finding a market opportunity for affordable housing that contributes towards the realization of the Sustainable Development Goals. And every day we've had a different sub-theme, and today's sub-theme is about sustainability, that housing, investment in affordable housing also contributes to sustainability and resilience. And we have a lovely collection of speakers who are going to address the topic. Before I start to introduce our current speaker, our keynote speaker for the day, I just want to thank our sponsors who've actually made this possible. And I think, as I've said before, it's always a bit anxious making when one tries a new technology and a new approach. Can we be viable in what we're trying to offer? And so we were very grateful for the support of our lead sponsor, the African Development Bank, who really made a big dent in our ability to make this to make this possible. Our stream sponsor, the CDC from the UK, and then IFC Edge is our green building sponsor. So ultimately today is IFC Edge's day, because this is the focus, what we're talking about today. I'd also like to thank our industry sponsors, iBuild Global, Alima Digital Foundry, Land Afrique, and Real, all of whom have been participating in sessions, in panel discussions, in presentations, and we've had such a lovely, lively engagement, and we hope that that will continue even beyond the conference. I'd also like to welcome participants here to consider, if you're not a member of the AUHF, please do come and join us. We're a really very vibrant organization. IFC is a member, and as well as a range of other lenders, financial institutions, developers, building material suppliers from across the continent. And so we would love to grow the strength of our union through your participation. So coming now to our program for today and our keynote address, which is going to be delivered by Dennis Konas. And we are very, very happy to have you with us today, Dennis. Thank you. Dennis is the green building lead of the IFC in Ghana, and we'll be talking about the opportunities to be found in the sustainable delivery of affordable housing, and the link between affordable housing and green sustainability, supporting the resilience of our urban settlements. So I'd like to hand over to you now, Dennis. Thank you very much for being with us. We're very grateful.
Thank you so much, Kezia, for the introduction. So I'll just go ahead now and then share my screen. I hope you can see my screen now.
Yes.
Okay, so that's good. So as Kezia mentioned, I'm Dennis Kwansa, and I lead IFC Edge Green Building Program across West Africa and then Kenya. So my presentation this morning, I will be looking basically at affordable housing and then green buildings. Is it possible to still have housing that is affordable and yet green at the same time? Right. What we've seen is that closing the gap on the supply of green affordable homes is really a big challenge. But we think that we can overcome this through the public and then the private sectors all working together. It is an opportunity that we've seen that's going to benefit government, it will benefit developers, it will benefit the financial institutions, and then the home buyers who really are the people that would enjoy these facilities. Now, as per our own projection as IFC, we see green buildings in sub-Saharan Africa to be at least an $800 billion investment opportunity. And this is true now till 2030, right? Currently, we have few green buildings in Africa, and there's a significant need to have a lot of affordable homes. Green and then affordable should not be trade-offs. We at IFC think that both is possible, right? What we need is rather a way to put the homes onto a greener path and then provide them with solutions that are sensible to the African context, right? And at IFC, we are here to help with solutions that will create the market and then also help lift people out of poverty. You see through my presentation that we've done some work in this area, and it's gradually sharing a lot of light on this. So one of the main areas that IFC works in this sector, it's with our green building program, right? This program was created by IFC to provide an avenue where all the stakeholders within the built environment can work together to become a catalyst for the green building market in Africa, right? Well, it's the program doesn't cover only Africa; it covers all other parts of the emerging country, of the emerging world where IFC has a mandate to operate. Now, we've done at least 5.5 billion investment in green buildings, and it's even likely is going to be higher because this doesn't include the work that was done in the last fiscal year, right? Now, this is the offer that IFC is looking at, and it's also a way to look at how we work, right? We work across a broad range of market creation efforts. We work with specific types of advice, and finally, we also do investment, right? We have differentiated offers for developers, we have offers for for investors, and then for governments, right? We see, we are always eager to connect all the different stakeholders to the different opportunities that are available. Now, let me just dive straight into what we'll be talking about today, right? And this is really an example of some of the work that we've done in catalyzing the green building markets, right? And you can see this in the case study of South Africa. My presentation today will be full of case studies because we really think we have some tangible examples that we can showcase to make our point that green and affordability, shouldn't be different. Now, with this particular case study, so IFC invested $21 million in a fund that was managed by IHS. IHS it's one of the large equity investors in South Africa. They are basically into the affordable housing market segment, right? And they were the first in Africa to adopt the IFC's EDGE standard, right? What they did was they used EDGE to find the best solutions that will save their project on energy and water. And this was based on the local climate and then the local construction practices. It's really important to emphasize that because most of the time, what the problem has been is we look at green and then start thinking that it should be a borrowed concept, irrespective of how we build. But no, it should be able to conform to the local climatic condition and then how we build locally. Right now, going back to IHS, by using EDGE, they were able to minimize the incremental costs. Right. Initially, the cost of getting their projects to be green was between 2.6% of their total construction cost. they were able to bring it to as low as 0.25% per unit. Later today, we would have a panel discussion where we would have IHS to talk a bit more about some of the work that they've done. So we get more information on this. Now, many of the green features that were used centered on passive design and then other very sensible measures such as low flow showers. So it's not looking at the very expensive measures that can get your project to be green, right? So the interesting thing is later IHS compared the performance of their green developments against the non-green developments that they had done in the past. And they found that their green homes were creating an annual savings on their utility bills, which was equal to 1 month's rent, right? And this is very, very significant because these housing that they were churning out was supposed to be affordable. And these were being occupied by people within the low and the middle income brackets. So being able to save at least 1 month's rent over the course of the year by reduction in your utility bills was very, very significant to the people that were living in these properties. And as a result, it made their properties much more attractive to buyers and then people that wanted to rent. You'll be able to find some more information on this particular case study in the Housing Finance International Journal. We published this in a few months ago. Now, at the same time, IFC created a partnership with the Green Building Council of South Africa for technical trainings, market education, working with the banks and government, because we believe that if we do all of this and there isn't a lot of awareness raising or education on why people need to go green, it will become difficult for the end users to really understand this, right? The example of IHS also, it inspired other developers to take action. Currently, we have Baldwin Properties in South Africa. They announced a few months ago in May, last year in May, that they will be certifying 16,000 units in 10 projects that they will be building over the next few years. And surprisingly, this has also led to an action by other financial institutions. So we have ABSA, who is one of the largest banks in South Africa, announcing a partnership with Baldwin to do an eco home green mortgage investment product. This green mortgage would be available to purchasers, to people that would buy homes from Baldwin. And the intent is that the rate is going to be lower than what they ordinarily do, right? Mainly because these projects that Baldwin is going to do is going to be green, right? So this is a very simple example on how one simple investment or a change in how people do things can lead to getting the financial institutions, getting the developers, and then getting the buyers all together. In the later slide, we'll look at how governments come in as well to help make the cost of housing lower. So now, let's just take a step back and then look at exactly what we mean by a green building, because I'm very sure a lot of you would have your own definition of what a green building is, right? So when IFC created EDGE, the main motive was in part to answer the need for a common definition of green building that would connect the investors, it will connect builders, it will connect buyers, and then connect regulators, right? So the first is, international green building definitions agree that a building must obtain a local or international standard of green building certification, right? And this should be verified by an independent third party, right? It is not enough to, personally self-declare that the building has met a standard. It needs to be certified by a reputable certification system, because if that's not the case, then we can all comfortably say our buildings are green because we've done this and that and that. But there hasn't been the checks by a certified auditor or certified person to check that, yes, this is actually meeting the standard that it's supposed to meet. Now, the second part of the definition is that the building has to be at least 20% more resource efficient than a comparable baseline building in the local market, right? And our software is able to measure this performance, right? And the local baseline is also important. I mean, I mentioned in my earlier slides that we need to compare it to what is being done on the ground. I mean, in your locality, how are buildings being done? What is the climatic conditions in there, right? It's not right for us to measure the performance of your building compared to a building in a different climatic condition or in a different construction practice, and then say that that's the baseline. So we need to have a local baseline for all the projects, and this we've done in our software, which I'll show you later on the slides. Now, in order to satisfy green finance requirements, we believe that projects must have a quantified impact reporting, right? So we should be able to report on an individual project basis or even on a portfolio basis. We should be able to know how much energy has been saved, how much water has been saved, what has been the total reduction in GHG emissions. All of these information needs to be shown. We need to see from your project, right? And mind you, I mean, because IFC is a financial institution, we are really keen on that. The numbers is really important for us. We need to see that, yes, the impact of certifying this project is equal to this. This is what it is in monetary terms, all of that. And our software is able to even show you all of this. Now, you should note that we are not saying the required standard is EDGE. EDGE is only one of the standards that can be used. Buildings can be certified by a lot of international standards. In Africa, the popular ones are LEED. We have Green Star as well. Some projects are even doing BREEAM, right? However, we just think that EDGE has a tremendous offer that is tailored to emerging markets, right? Now, as you can see, EDGE is aligned with international green finance criteria, and it includes a lot of investor-oriented associations. We also work with the climate bonds initiatives. We work with real estate bodies such as GRESB, and then other disclosure platforms like the CDP. Now, this is really important because we see a link between buildings being green and then getting access to finance, right? When it comes to the affordable housing space, most of the complaints that we've seen from developers has been the access to finance, right? So can we put a link or create a link between your projects being green and then you getting access to finance? So having this association with all of these enterprises is very important, because now if any investor is looking at providing funding for a project, they can recognize the credibility of the EDGE certification that the project has. Yeah, and going back to our definition, why is that definition important? We've seen that, I mean, it's able to allow our client to access important sources of green finance, right? And let me show that through a case study here. It's not in Africa though. So we have BANCOLOMBIA, which is one of the biggest banks in Colombia. They launched a 400 million investment program, and they had incentives for both developers and mortgage buyers, and coupled, they also include education, which is the most important one. Now, the EDGE label allowed the issuance of a pair of green bonds, right? So through these green bonds, they were able to finance the program. The proceeds from the green bond was what they used to give their incentives to the developers, what they used to provide the mortgage financing and all that. Now, I'll come into, I'll speak about that in detail later in other slides. But another case study is Acorn, which is right here in Africa, in Kenya. They also utilize the relationship that Edge has developed with all the international standards that I spoke about in my last slide. And they saw that they could launch a green bond for their portfolio of green housing, right? Of green student housing, right? And this was actually Kenya's first green bond, and it brought the company into the limelight when they launched their trading on the London Stock Exchange. But the bond that they issued was to finance their Edge certified properties. So currently, I think they actually have plans of doing about 40,000 housing units. 40,000 student housing units across Kenya, and currently they've certified about 5 of these projects, and but in the end, all of these will be certified, right? And that's the green label was what enabled them to get access to the financing to put up these projects, right? Now, the interesting thing is the Kenyan government has now passed a law that makes interest from green bonds exempt. So we believe that this would further motivate investment through this instrument, right? So our aim of linking governments, linking investors, linking developers is gradually ongoing, right? Now, let me also talk about Indospace, which is in Indonesia. They also were able to get a green label, which allowed them to refinance their properties, right? And they worked with HSBC. Now, the label allowed them to access up to about 130 million USD. Right, and they use this to refinance their warehousing projects. So now, you may ask, I've been talking about projects being green, but how will you recognize that a building is green? Because the definitions that I provided in my earlier slide, it wouldn't be on the building. You wouldn't see it physically on the building. So how will developers know what they need to do? How would they know how to design a green building, and then at the same time have very cost-effective measures that will make the project affordable? Because at the end of the day, in as much as we will need to make a project green, affordability should be very important, right? And depending on the measures that you choose, right, there are very expensive green building measures. Although these expensive green building measures would be able to give you a higher savings on your utilities and all that. However, there are very simple and cost-effective measures as well, which sometimes would not impact on your costs, right? So these are some of the measures that Edge tries to focus on, right? And then the other question is, how would the end users, that's the buyers or the users of the homes, recognize the value of a green building, right? And that's where Edge comes in. We are able to use our software to really exemplify this. You are able to look at certain measures that are cost effective. Any measure that you select, you're able to see its effect on your construction costs, right? So that you can decide on which of the measures that you are comfortable with because of the costs. You can see what your payback is going to be at the end of the day. And then most importantly, you're also able to see how much you are saving on utility bills. And that's where it becomes important when you are marketing the project, because then you can use that to let your end users know that now by coming into this project or into this home, this is what you tend to gain. This is what you tend to save. Just like the example of IHS in South Africa. Now, because, I mean, cost is very important, because one of the main barriers to building green is a perception that green measures are very expensive, right? It's one of the things that prevents people from even starting or thinking about green building in the first place, because they already have that assumption that green building is expensive. So they wouldn't even want to attempt it or to explore that option. However, the evidence that we are seeing across several markets is suggesting that incremental cost of building green is significantly lower than what was previously thought, especially when the green measures are incorporated early in the design of the building, right? So I mean, what we should notice the time of incorporating the measures is very, very important, right? What we've seen is, if these measures are thought of, I mean, if these measures become an afterthought, after you've done, I mean, you've incurred all the expenses, and then you think of, okay, let me put in some measures to make it green, it affects the cost of the project. But if the design is done right from the start to be green, there is a lot of benefit in there, right? And the cost of building green varies across locations. And as I mentioned earlier on, the climatic condition is very important. The type of building materials that are available in that particular locality, the local expertise that is also available, right, also would affect how the measures is going to impact on your project, right? But if you look at the examples that you've seen on the screen, these 4 examples, it cuts across. They are in different regions, and all of them use very simple and cost-effective measures, right? In South Africa, we've already spoke about IHS. They are reporting that the additional costs to build, to get to the S standard for them is about $270 per housing unit. And as I mentioned earlier on, it's actually less than 1% of the construction cost, right? Now, we see similar results in Vietnam, because the IFCH program works across different geographies. We work in Vietnam as well. In Vietnam, there is a project we worked on, Capital House, that does low-income housing. They are also reporting to do less than 1% on their incremental cost. I mean, in IFC, I'm sorry, in Mexico, we have a client called Vinte. They also do affordable housing, and for them, they are saying the cost of getting their projects to be green, it's around $300 per unit, right? We are seeing similar results also in Indonesia. Now, so it's very important that developers incorporate edge early into their design, so that they can be able to minimize their incremental costs. Now, this is more data from IHS. I mean, from the IHS case study that I showcased, right? And as I mentioned earlier on, we've published this case study in the House and Finance International Journal. So you'll be able to get more information there, right? And
we have 2 minutes.
Okay, great. Yeah. And so this is also the other case study I mentioned. BANCOLOMBIA, through the green bond, they were able to finance a lot of projects and get them to be green, and also do the education and the awareness. Now, what we are also seeing is gradually banks and other financial institutions are becoming very interested in providing incentives to catalyze the market. So meaning that if projects are going to be green, there is going to be an incentive in terms of lower interest rates or some technical help from some of these institutions to help them. And an example was the case in South Africa, where ABSA launched the first eco home to support bordering properties, right? And governments are also coming into the fray. What we've seen, there's a lot of incentives that governments are providing. The most interesting one was the decree from the Kenyan government that they were going to provide free land for all affordable housing projects if it was going to meet the EDGE standard. This we believe is going to help impact on the cost of affordable housing, and then also affect how people think about green in the long run. We have a similar example in Nigeria where ECHOSTONE is certifying their projects, and this was through a PPP with local governments, right? There is also another case study in South Africa where BELHAR Gardens in Cape Town, they used a PPP arrangement to certify their green social housing. And the interesting thing with this particular project is they also use very, very sensible green measures that did not have a significant impact on their costs, right? And we did some analysis, and we realized that residents in this building, I mean, in this particular project, are paying as low as $6 per month for electricity, right? And I mean, this is a social housing project, and to have the residents in there paying that low, it means that they can then use the savings to invest in other very important aspects of their lives. And so then that becomes very important, because if you talk about affordability, right, we are not just looking at the building, the cost of the building per se, but we should also be looking at the long-term use of the building. The people that are going to live in the house, can they really afford to maintain it? Can they really afford to live in those homes, right? So that is what we should always be thinking about, and then be trying to see how we can make sure that we provide housing that is truly affordable, in the sense that its maintenance and then usage is affordable as well. So I would end my presentation here by acknowledging some of IFC's donor partners that have made it possible for us to really push this program across Africa. The UK government and then SECO have been very instrumental in allowing us to provide the EDGE software to be free for people to use, right? And then also for all the awareness raising and promotional activities that we do. Thank you so much. I'll hand over to Kesia now, and if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Dennis, thank you so much. I'm so impressed by the quality and the breadth of data and experience that you have to share. And we would really love to help you share these stories, because they're inspirational, and you're showing that, in fact, it's one of those proper win-wins, isn't it? It's
exactly
sustainable, and it's cheaper, and you can do it. We just need to get our heads around it. And I hope that the sessions over the course of today will really make that clear. I remember in conversation with IHS, Rob Veselo said, I don't know why we didn't do it before. It's like obvious. It's so much easier to do it green, and that makes it more sustainable in the long run too. We've run out of time. There are some questions to you in the chat, which I would invite you to maybe respond to online, or to connect with separately. We need to move on to the next stage now, well, within one of the sessions tabs, and perhaps people can connect with Dennis directly through the direct messages or by email. Dennis, thank you so much for your contribution. Really very valuable.
Thank you, Kesia. I'm grateful you gave us the opportunity.
Thank you. All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye.